And welcome back. We're going to try to perform turn 4 today before I run out of light here. So here's the command chits that are going in the cup. We've got our standard 4 up here, and down below we've got 16th Army for the Russians, 13th Army, and Timoshenko. For the Germans, we're taking Guderian once again. Gives us a nice little ability for trumping chits that are drawn, and 3rd Panzer Group. Now for turn 4, the Germans are limited to, let's see here. Turn forward, the Germans are limited to 2 command chits. The Soviets get 3, so this is what we've picked. I've got my mechanized command chits here ready to go. I want to keep those guys in play. And as far as the Russians go, let's take a look and see what I picked out here. So we've got Timoshenko down here in the south. If you notice, he's within 4 hexes of, well, his HQ command range is 6. So he's going to be able to activate 21st Army, and 21st Army would be able to leapfrog off of that and activate 13th Army. So we've got Timoshenko here and also that 13th Army command chit. What's really nice about this is we'll be able to, assuming how things go, the idea is we'll be able to activate all of these units twice in a turn down here in the south, where the Germans are sort of in a pickle. Another reason for this is because on turn 4, at the end of turn 4, this supply hex is no longer a supply hex for the Russians. So we might need the extra activation to readjust our line and get these guys moved elsewhere. The other command chit here for the Russians is 16th Army, which happens to be right here in Smolensk. So having this HQ activate would activate 20th Army up here and all of these units that are sort of holding ground in the center of the map. And up here in the north, not much is going on. Now, since I'm playing both sides, I kind of know that the German infantry are going to be activated, I do believe, correct. And, so when I was picking up the Russian chits, I had no desire to activate any of these headquarters up here in the north. Does that tilt a bit? Sure, but looking at the strategic situation, this really isn't important what's happening up here versus what's going on sort of in the center of the map and down here on the southern portion of the map. So I think we're still good. So I'm going to go ahead and throw these in the cup and then we'll start taking our turn. So unfortunately there's going to be a little bit of a discontinuity here because my camera wasn't rolling and I had given a lot of dialogue. But in short, there's the first chit that I drew. It was the German air power chit, and we were able to flip over, or we're going to be able to flip over one of our air markers here. So we'll have 2 Stuka units available to us as the German player for this turn. The second chit that I drew, there it is the supply chit. Now, I had gone into some discussion about the out of supply mark. So certainly nobody's out of supply. I had a long discussion showing that, but I'm just going to skip over it. And I'm going to jump straight to the fact that in turn 4, the Russian player can place up to 4 German out of supply markers on German units. And so if we look at the map here, we see that there's already an out of supply marker placed on a mechanized stack. So we've got SS Reich here, we've got a Panzer division. Both are out of supply, so 10th Panzer. We could decide to move that if we wanted to, but putting 2 units out of supply in 1 hex with 1 marker is pretty beneficial. Up here we also have 2 German mechanized units underneath this marker here that are out of supply. And so this comes over from the last turn. So the Russian player really gets 2 more out of supply markers they can place on this particular activation. And the last thought that I had before I realized my camera wasn't rolling is that as the German player, we can go ahead and trump that chit that was drawn with Guderian's activation over here. And I'm thinking maybe we should, because it's going to hurt as the German player to have 4 stacks out of supply before they're even able to move. And so I think what we're going to do is, I see no reason not to do this. We're going to throw that supply marker into the cup, and we're going to go ahead and activate the Guderian chit. So if we remember correctly, that's going to be the 2nd Panzer Group, which is down here in the south. And so we really need to figure out what we're going to do. Now, these out of supply markers mean that our movement is halved and our attack values are halved as well. And so that's really going to hamper the things that we can do. And the Russian player certainly is in a strong position down here in the south. But again, we need to concentrate on snagging victory points because we really haven't done that, and it is now turn 4. So let's see here. We've got a couple of guys. We've got 18th Panzer and 17th Panzer ready to roll. We could probably punch through some of this and start taking these VP hexes. We have to be careful about this river though. So that's going to hurt us. It's going to slow us down a little bit. And that is going to be a minor river. So we can cross a minor river with mechanized divisions. It's only going to cost us 2 additional movement points to do it. So what I'm thinking here is, for sure, we're going to take our guys in red here, and we're going to run them east and try to take perhaps Roslav, and we could probably make it out this far, Spazdemensk, or this hex right here. So that'll get us a gold VP chit and maybe a couple of silver ones, 1 or 2. We'll see. So let's go ahead and think about that. The other thing the other thing to remember is that we can move the guys in yellow and also the guys in blue. So they're not in any sort of position to just run across the map and do much. And the other thing too is we have to remember is that this Russian elite infantry division is on the other side of this river, and so we have to make sure that he's not able to run his way up, back up in here behind our lines. So we're going to think about this and we'll come back. Okay, I've had a chance to look at this, and breaking out and taking VP hexes right now doesn't seem like the best idea. If we look at our situation down here, there are some Russian units that I think we can get caught or sort of wrapped up in our zone of control. We can do some attacks and perhaps eliminate them. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to encircle some of these guys. So we've got 17th Panzer and 29th Motorized Division. We're going to move them 1 hex to the left. That's going to cost them 5 movement points, 2 to leave enemy zone of control, 2 to re-enter zone of control, and +1 for the clear hex. And then what we're going to do is we're going to run 18th Panzer down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and put him here. And then we're going to post up. We're going to run 3rd Panzer down in here, and we're going to take our mechanized infantry division here and run it down here as well. In this way, we keep all of our mechanized units within 4 hexes of each other for activation. If I ran 18th Panzer down to take VP hexes, he would be left by himself. So we've got 27th Mechanized Division wrapped up in zone of control, and also this 30th Infantry Corps down here. Now, the only question is, what do we do with 4th Panzer? So he's blocking the road to Mogilev, and there's a bridge there, so he can move over, and it would only cost 1 movement point to do. If I move him left and try to contest this elite infantry division down here that the Russians have posted up, it's going to put him out of range of his other buddy, 3rd Panzer Group over here on the right. Right where they were sort of within 4 hexes of each other, and so what I'm thinking is the Russians won't be able to take Mogilev next turn, or in the future, because it's going to cost 2 to enter my zone of control, and he only has 4 movement points. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep that stack there. Unfortunately, it seems like they're not doing anything, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to perform some combat. So we're going to take our out of supply mechanized divisions up here, and we're going to attack 27th Mechanized Corps. And we've got 17 divided by 2 rounded down is 8. And we're attacking into the clear, so 8 to 2 is a 4 to 1. And if I look at our combat results table, we can incur a retreat, okay? It looks pretty good for a retreat, so let's take a look real quick. So we've got our 4 to 1 column. A 1 will get us nothing. DR, DR, DR2, DR2, 1 DR2. And using an air unit really isn't going to help us too much in this case, because it's still all retreat results. They could take a step loss in here, I suppose. But we're going to save our Stukas, and we're going to go ahead and attack on a 4 to 1. So being that this is a German attack, we roll our 6-sided die, and we roll a nice high number, which is a 5. On a 4-to-1, that is a DR2. So he has to retreat, and because he's retreating through zone of control, he's going to have to take a step loss. He's going to go 1, 2. He's going to retreat, or flip, and we can move our mechanized units, I do believe, the out of supply marker notwithstanding. Okay, I just had a quick look at that rule, and that is correct. Being out of supply does not affect after combat movement. So being that these are mechanized units, we can move 2 spaces, the first hex being the hex that we performed combat in, and we're going to move them 1 and 2. This wraps up 27th Mechanized Corps in our zone of control. Okay, second combat's going to be over here. We've got 3rd Panzer and this mechanized division, so that's 9 and 4, 13 and 16 is 29. If we want to throw it all into one combat, we could eliminate a unit if we throw everybody in there. So 29 to 3, what is that? 9 to 1. Yeah, we could certainly eliminate him without any Stuka unit or anything like that. We're going to play it safe. We're going to go ahead and do that. Playing it safe is probably how the Germans can lose at this game. But that's what we're going to do. So we're rolling on a 9 to 1. And we roll a 6. So this is a 3DR2. And this guy is certainly eliminated. He is going to go in the Soviet reserve box because he was not isolated. So now we can go ahead and do our after combat movement. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll these guys down in here like that. Okay, now we've got a nice line of mechanized units with a wall of zone of control, blocking these guys from moving forward if they wish. Alright, so now that ends that activation. And we're going to go back to our cup, and we're going to draw, what is that, 16th Army. So 16th Army, there we go. Where is 16th Army? That is in Smolensk. So that means that we're going to activate this HQ. In turn, we're going to activate 20th Army, and all of these Russian units in here are going to be activated. I'm looking at this situation, and I'm thinking, well, I don't really have enough units powerful enough to really make any solid attacks. Well, let's see here. Panzer units defend at a smaller value than their offensive combat factor allows. So there's a 2, here's 6 for the 20th Motorized Division. So there's 8 total combat values in this particular hex, and we could bring to bear 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's not very good. So I'm not really sure what we're going to do with this activation. We've got 5th Mechanized Corps here that's reduced, so he's not going to be very helpful. And we've got 7 in there, and we've got an isolated 12 Panzer group there. There's only 3 defense values in this hex, and we could bring to bear 7. So that's a 2 to 1 if we don't do anything. But I could bring up 23rd Mechanized. It'll cost me 3 to get in there. No, it'll cost me 5 to get in there because I'm in zone of control. So 2 to leave, 2 to enter, plus 1 for the clear hex, 5, which we could do. We could stuff up in here and try to attack this hex. Is that what we want to do? We're kind of in a bad way here. So what's in our Smolensk hex? 3-4, a 2-0, and of course our HQ. I say we're going to go for it. We're not going to be able to really... I don't think we're going to be able to eliminate any kind of unit, but let's just go and do it. Why not? We're going to push him forward. We're going to attack this hex from these 2 hexes. I don't see... I'm going to move this HQ back 1. I don't think really making any other movements is going to be beneficial to us. These guys are out of supply, but they're pretty powerful. I'm going to leave 5th Mechanized here to protect this flank of the T-34 and 52nd Russian infantry corps. We're just going to go ahead and attack the way it is. So we've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We've got 10 to, what is it, 3. So that's a 3 to 1. So we're going to roll our 10-sided die on a 3 to 1. This might not be so good. Hopefully we can cause a retreat. And we roll a 1, so nothing happens, unfortunately. Let me bring that into the frame. Nothing happens on a 1. So that was worth a shot. Okay, so we end that activation because we didn't win combat, that nobody retreats or anything like that. Nobody can advance after an unsuccessful combat. So we go ahead and we go to our cup and move on to the next activation. So Timoshenko, there we go. Now this is what's interesting about Timoshenko. When you pull his command chit, he's got a little special rule here in the rule book that says, if I can find it, here we go. If the Timoshenko command chit is drawn, Soviet HQ activation occurs as normal. Okay, that's fine and dandy. However, any Soviet unit involved in combat, this activation gets a beneficial 1 column shift to the right on the CRT for the attacks. Okay, so if we perform any combat as the Russian player, in this particular activation, we're going to get an automatic 1 shift to the right on the CRT for whatever reason. I suppose it's because Timoshenko had proven to be a very good general historically, and he had done some wonderful things on the battlefield, so being that we have activated him, he's going to get a nice little bonus. Okay, so what is the deal here? There's Timoshenko, by the way, and his HQ has a command range of 6, so we get to activate 21st and 13th Army, as we stated earlier on in the video. So we've got some infantry units wrapped up down here. Again, there's really no point crossing the river to try to attack these rather strong German infantry divisions, so we're going to camp out here. The real beef is going to be up here, with this defensive line that we threw up as the Russian player in previous turns. And so all of these units are activated. The question is, what are we going to do? Sort of one of the more pressing things that is really keeping the Germans held back is the fact that I was able to get this elite infantry division across the river, and he's rearing to really mess things up. So how can we use this situation to our advantage and really put a damper on this German offensive? And so he can move 4. Woods do not affect the movement of infantry, so we could move 1, 2, 3 and get up next to Mogilev, or keep him in the woods up here to give him some defensive bonus if he was to be attacked by the Germans, which eventually I'm sure he would be. Are there any German units that seem to be vulnerable right now? And I'm thinking, well, not really. We've got 29th Motorized Infantry Division, and we've got 17th Panzer there with 9 combat values. There's no way I can bring to bear enough Russian offensive values to justify combat. So, it's looking like we just sort of need to hold the line from the looks of it. Maybe pull back a little bit so we don't get this guy coming through and surrounding us. But yeah, I don't think there's really much we can do here. Unfortunately, too, because we get that nice combat bonus of 1 shift to the right. Let's see. This guy has 2. Maybe we could smack him. Could bring in this 3 for a 6 to 2. That's a 3 to 1. That could work. I could hit this guy here, but everything else I'm thinking is going to have to be pulled back a little bit. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to move our 28th Russian Infantry Corps up 1 hex. That's going to cost 1 to enter the clear, 2 to enter zone of control. So we burn up 3 movement points there. And these 2 guys are going to attack. Here we need to kind of, we need to pull back, I think. So it's going to cost us 2 to leave, 2 to enter, 1 for the clear, so that's 5. It's going to cost us 3 to move this guy back. Actually, I don't necessarily want all of these guys out of zone of control. So we're going to move these guys over, keeping this German stack wrapped up in zone of control. We're going to move this guy up here into the woods. And I want to move one of these stacks up. I think I do. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Move him up there. And we're going to move Timoshenko's HQ, I don't know, somewhere in here. Sort of put him a little closer to these HQs up here that are further north. And perhaps we can stack these guys in this hex right there. Okay. Okay, all right, this is looking all right. Wrapped up in zone of control. We're going to try to hit him. And we've got a line here. This is sort of the weak spot, though. That's the only problem. This is a weak spot because we've got two mechanized divisions that have a combat value of 2. And if he busts through here, he's going to cut off these units. What I'm hoping is that when we draw the reinforcement chit, we'll be able to plop some Russian infantry or whatever down around the city and plug this gap. So that's why I'm going to go with this deployment. And can we move this guy out of here? Should we move this guy out of here? He's out of supply with 10 combat factors. Well, that's on the defense. So 9 plus 8, that's 17 divided by 2 is what, 8? Round it down. Okay. Maybe we should pull this guy back, and we're going to put him right here in this little town. Right there. I don't know why. We're just going to do it. We're just going to do that. That looks good. Okay. Let's go ahead and perform combat. What are we attacking here? 18th Panzer. Okay. So we've got 3 plus 3 is 6 to 2, which is 3 to 1. 6 to 2, 3 to 1. We get a beneficial shift to the right for combat. Since we're the Russians, we're going to roll our 10-sided die, and we roll a 2. So we're on the 4 to 1, we roll a 2, and all it is a measly retreat. So there we go. He's going to retreat, and do we want to move forward? That is the question. If I move forward, I could stack both of these guys in the same hex, and I'm thinking that's what we should do. Because having 7th Mechanized Corps out here all by himself leaves him very vulnerable. We still have zone of control through these 2 hexes on the advance to Khrushchev. So we're going to roll with that. Okay. So that ends that activation. We go to our cup, we draw the next chit, and it is now 13th Army. 13th Army, oh great, is right there. So that whole thing at the beginning of the turn where I said, oh look, these guys are going to be able to move twice, well, that doesn't really help us. Unfortunately, we didn't draw the reinforcement chit that would get us additional units around this city to, move on this particular activation. So we kind of did everything we wanted, although, oh darn, I didn't think about this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, he is just out of range. I did not think about that. Oh, wait, we've got an HQ here. Yes, we do. With a command range of 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. This guy is activated, and we are going to move him 1, 2, 3 for entering zone of control, plus 1 for the town, and we're going to take Mogilev. Now, here's a good example of what happens when a Russian player takes a victory point, a VP hex that was previously owned by the Germans. What happens is, the Russian player comes over here, looks at the victory chits that have already been taken, and they can randomly select, when I say randomly select, they select any one of these chits that they want. Okay? And the color of the hex, in this particular case it's silver or gray, doesn't matter. The Russian is allowed to pick any VP chit that they want. And so maybe we'll pick the gold one because it's worth more victory points, and we remove that from the German player's ownership, and what happens is we flip it to its value side, and we place it in the hex. And that was a big one. 7 victory points. So it's going to be critical for the Germans to retake this city hex right here. Now here's the problem. Our panzer units are across the river. And for them to attack into a city, it's going to have their attack strength, for one. It doesn't matter that there's a bridge there. And then 2, the city will provide 2 shifts to the left. So this is bad. This is very, very bad for the German player. Do we have anything in the vicinity to attack with? No, we don't. Our infantry are... It's going to take a couple of turns for infantry to get down here. This is very, very bad for the Germans. But it is what it is. So, 13th Army activation. We go ahead and we take Mogilev up there. And, you know, the question is, do we do anything else? And I think, yeah, certainly. We know that 4th Panzer up here isn't going to be moving forward anytime soon. So let's go ahead and move these guys up. Actually, let's move this guy here. Let's move our HQ here. That way we keep our elite division within command range, but we're still within range of Timoshenko. All these guys are still within range. That's what we're doing. That's what we're trying to do. And let's stack these guys here. All right. So we've beefed up our position here a little bit along this line. We've taken Mogilev and really put a knife in the back of the German player. I have no idea how we're going to deal with that. And that ends that activation. Go ahead and draw our next chit. And we draw the reinforcement chit. Okay, this is what the Russian player would have loved to have had drawn before 13th Army activation, but it is what it is. So if we take a look at turn 4, Soviet reinforcement points is 6, plus 1 elite division, plus 1 PVO unit. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, we get a PVO unit, which is right here on the turn track, and the PVO unit can be placed in any victory point city, I do believe. Let me check this. I'll come right back. Okay, here's something really cool for the Russian player. PVO units get placed in hexes that have a VP chit, and hexes that can trace supply. And if I look over here at Mogilev, I see a victory point chit in that hex, and a hex that's able to trace supply, which can go over river, and you know, it can be an infinite number of hexes, whatever on the map. Short story is, the Russian player gets to plot that guy right there. So Mogilev has now been reinforced, making the situation even more dire for the Germans. The lesson to be learned here, German players, is do not allow the Russians to cross the river and move their way up into Mogilev. Just don't do it. I was not as careful about it as I should have been, and lesson learned. Okay, so we've got our PVO unit taken care of. Now we get 1 elite division, which I've just drawn one from the cup, and it happens to be a T-34, so we'll be able to place that on the map here in a minute. And we also get 6 Soviet reinforcement points to spend. And so if I recall correctly, it costs 1 reinforcement point to select any combat unit, 2 reinforcement points to select any HQ from the reserve box, which is up here. So we've got 6 that we can plop down on the map. Now the question is, do we want to draw a Russian HQ? And I think we do. And here's the reason why. We've got a city here that is Khrushchev. It's got a VP chit in it, and we were talking about placing units around this city. And if I place units around the city, either in the city or in adjacent hexes, 1, 2, 3, 4. A couple of these hexes are going to be just out of range of an HQ, because I wasn't thinking ahead, whatever. So one of the things we're going to do is we're going to spend 2 points to bring on a Russian HQ. And then the other 4 points, we're just going to bring on all of our infantry. So we don't have any mechanized units to bring on the map that are available to us. It's all infantry. So we're going to spend the remaining 4 points on these Russian infantry corps. And we're going to place these around this 31st HQ So we're going to place 31st HQ in the city, just like that. And then we get to place our... Oop, can't do that. No 2 tan units can be in the same hex, that's right. But we're going to go ahead and place our infantry down here like this. And, where else do we want to place infantry? So the rule is we can place these reinforcements around any HQ that can draw us or trace supply on the map. Up north, everything looks boring. Down here, maybe we're going to want to put an infantry division. Or what about down here? You know what? Just to keep things moving, I'm going to place... I don't think I can place them in there, no, because there's already a tan unit. I want to place them here on this approach to Smolensk. Okay, so we've beefed up our position a little bit up here north of Smolensk and certainly down here in the south where things are really falling apart for the Germans. I mean, if we look at this, the Germans are just, they were caught out in the open. They don't have any backup really at all because, look, they are limited by the number of command chits they get in turn 4. So perhaps in turn 5 we'll introduce a 9th Army chit and be able to unleash these infantry divisions. But they're sort of far away, they're out of place, and they're not able to back up these German mechanized divisions. So that's bad news for the Germans right now. Go ahead and we go back to our cup, and we are going to draw the supply chit. Okay, so this is the one that we trumped earlier. Oh, whoops. I forgot to place my T-34. So the T-34, where do we want to place him? Do we want to put him here? Do we want to put him here? Or do we want to put him up here? That is the question. You know what? I'm going to put them right there. Okay. All right. On to the supply phase. So, again, the Russian player can place up to 4 out of supply markers this turn on German units. They already have 2 on the map. Is anything else out of supply? All these guys are in supply. This guy's in supply. He can trace supply through whatever, any number of hexes. All these guys down in here are in supply, in supply, in supply. Okay, so we're all in supply. Now the question is, what does the Russian player want to do as far as these supply markers go? And it looks like I'm going to have to go back to my box and pull out a couple more. But while I'm doing that, let's think about this real quick. So certainly these out-of-supply markers are there to really stem the Germans' ability to move and perform offensive combat. And so it's going to be important for us to place these markers on units that are looking or in a good tentative position to attack and or run away and wreak havoc behind the lines. And of course we want to maximize the number of units we put out of supply. So here's really something that we can do to twist the knife that we've already driven in the back of the Germans. We're going to place an out of supply marker on that stack right there. And we are also going to place an out of supply marker up here. Okay, this guy's isolated. I have to do something about this isolation. But I've already forgotten. So let me take a look real quick and talk about. He's no longer isolated. So I can remove this marker. He's no longer isolated anymore. Okay. Because this is now the supply phase. Okay. Where is it going to hurt the most? There's 6, 7, 8 in there, or 15. We've got 10 in there. Okay. So in short, what we're going to do is we're going to place our last out of supply marker right there. And as far as supply goes, you can trace it through contested enemy zone of control, I do believe. Take a look here. Yeah, okay, so it can pass through contested enemy zone of control. So this guy is still going to, so what that means is this stack right here is out of supply due to the placement of this marker by the Russian player. However, he is not isolated because he's able to trace supply through this contested enemy zone of control hex right here. So we're good. And the same goes for 23rd Mechanized. They can trace supply through this T-34, and we're golden, and we're happy. Okay. So there we go. We've got out of supply markers all over the place. Germans don't know what to do with themselves anymore. They're all wishing they could go home. This never happened. And finally, we get to activate 3rd Panzer Group, which of course are these guys up here in the north. All right. So very quickly, we're looking at this. Out of supply units have their attack values halved, rounded down. The only real thing to do here that might be beneficial is to attack 23rd Mechanized from these 3 positions, and then of course down here attack 5th Mechanized with this out of supply stack. So I think that's what we're going to do. So if we add all this up, we've got 9 and 6 is 15, divided by 2, rounded down to 7. 10, that's 5. So 7 plus 5 and plus another 17. 7 plus 5 plus 17. Is 36. That's a lot to bring to bear on this guy, but I don't think it's going to be worthwhile sort of splitting this up and doing multiple combats. We do have Stuka units, I have to keep that in mind. We've got 6 in that hex. Maybe we could. Maybe we will. 9 and 8 is 17. What's 17 to 7? 2 to 1. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and attack on a 2 to 1 here. We're going to bring in our Stuka unit. So we're going to use one of these guys. There we go. And that'll bring us up to a 4 to 1. And we roll a 1. Oh, that's just terrible. Okay, nothing happens on a 1. Well, that was a loss. So what I was hoping to do is make this guy retreat, and I can bring him down after combat. But that didn't happen, so we just go ahead and we move on. So again, we've got 6 and 9 is 15 rounded down. Half rounded down is 7 plus 10, 17 to 2. So that is going to be rounded down 8 to 1. And we roll a 5 on an 8 to 1. And so this guy is eliminated. We roll on a 5 a 2 DR2. So he's put in the Soviet reserve box. And then we can advance after combat. So we're going to push forward here. Like so. And then finally we're going to attack 5th Mechanized. So we're out of supplies. We've got 9 and 3, 12. That's 6 because we're halved due to out of supply. 6 to 1. No terrain bonus here. So 6 to 1. We go in and we roll a 6, which is a 2DR2. Alright. So it wasn't all bad. This guy's eliminated. Placed in the Soviet reserve box. And we're going to move after combat. We're going to move 1. And we are going to move 2 hexes. Just like that. What is in here? A 2-4. Okay. Alright, so that pretty much wraps up. Nope. I take that back. Why do we have one more command shit in here? I must have lost count. That ends that 3rd Panzer Group activation. The last... Oh, here we go. There's the last command chit that I forgot about. It's the artillery chit. Okay. So, the artillery attack is a special Russian ability where they get to roll in 3 to 1 column and try to incur some sort of retreat result on some German units. Taking a quick look at this because it's been a while. We're looking. Execution. So there's a rule on, how many hexes away a German unit can be for them to be eligible for an artillery attack, and then the other question is how many times does the Russian player get to finally found it. So what the Russian player does is they take our 6-sided die, they roll it, they take the number that comes up and they divide it by 2, and that tells the Russian player how many artillery attacks they get for this particular activation. So in this case, 2 divided by 2 is going to be 1. So that's unfortunate for the Russian player. Now, they get to roll on the 3 to 1 column on the CRT. They roll a regular 6-sided die, and the hexes the artillery attacks are performed in must be adjacent to a Soviet combat unit or HQ, or 2 hexes away from a Soviet unit in a hill hex. Okay, so we get 1 attack, 1 artillery attack. It's a 3 to 1. It's on the 3 to 1 column, and all that means is we could perhaps cause a retreat. So where do we want to cause a retreat from? Let's think about this real quick. Okay, after looking at this, we're going to go ahead and perform our artillery attack right here in this hex. If we can force the Germans out of here to retreat, we can prevent, well, I don't know what it's going to prevent. We're just going to do it. We roll on a 3 to 1 column. We roll a 6-sided die. We roll a 3, so we get a DR. The Germans have to retreat 1 hex. They don't want to retreat in enemy zone of control because they'll have to take a step loss, so they're going to back up 1 hex like this. Okay, so that ends turn 4 for this game, and we'll be moving it into turn 5 for the next video, and that's where we're going to leave it for now. I've got a basketball game to watch, so there you have it. We'll catch you then.